Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Disclaimer, if you're a leftoid who loves living in an information bubble, you might want to turn off this video, or at the very least, here's a little trigger warning. I feel like I have to say that because just in case there is a leftoid who happens to stumble upon this video, I don't want them to be shocked or anything. I know they love living in their little Reddit bubbles, where chronically online Reddit moderators purge the world of any wrongthink. They love living in their socialist utopia circle jerk bubbles. And of course, they have the same expectation from the mainstream media when they turn on CNN or MSNBC and they're hit with the truth. You've seen the reactions. Totally emotional. What can only be described as a full-blown tantrum. So I just want to save any poor leftoids here, because this CNN clip, it's just not what you're looking for. If you have blue hair, it's the stuff of nightmare for these wokies. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into. So let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so, as per usual, we're ahead of the curve. All the independent guys see the writing on the wall, a lot of the times we call it, and then CNN ends up pretty much sounding the exact same. Kamala Harris is in some pretty big trouble here.
Latest snapshots comes from New York Times and Siena College polling. Let's look at the numbers. The bottom line in this race right now, there is no clear leader. Former President Donald Trump does hold a 1-point advantage over Vice President Kamala Harris, but it's well within the margin of error of nearly 3 points. The poll does confirm what others before it have suggested. There is a wide gender gap among likely voters. Women are breaking for Harris roughly by 11 points, while men favor Donald Trump by about 17 points. Looking more closely at race, among white voters, Trump is up by 15 points, while Harris holds the advantage among black and Hispanic voters, though Trump's numbers with these voters are actually higher historically than most Republican presidential candidates have been. So that is actually welcome news for the former president. Focusing in on one of the most fascinating aspects of this poll, they dig into familiarity. A sizable share of voters say they still need more information about the vice president. 28%, more than a quarter of likely voters, say that they feel they need to learn more about Vice President Kamala Harris. Just 9% of those asked say the same about Trump. So tomorrow night could serve as an opportunity for her to introduce herself to these folks. Meantime, what do voters feel about those who want change, or rather, which candidate has positioned themselves as agents of change? What do voters think? 25% believe that Harris represents major change, while 53% believe that Trump stands as a disruptor. This is the 30,000-foot overall view. So let's take a closer look at the all-important blue wall. The winner of these battleground states stands a very good chance at winning the White House. And in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, a deadlocked race, according to CBS News and YouGov. There is no clear leader. Again, within the margin of error, roughly 3.5 to 4 points here. What is clear, top of mind for voters in this election, is the economy, and specifically in these states, roughly 8 and 10, just a shade over 8 and 10, say that the economy is a major issue in deciding their vote. Inflation also continues to be a major concern. Voters clearly feeling uneasy. A majority, more than a quarter of registered voters in each of these 3 states say that their income is not keeping up with inflation. You can imagine both candidates will be asked about this tomorrow night. Brianna?
Yeah, those are big numbers.
Yup, exactly that. It's the same thing over and over again. Leftoids just love reading the headlines. Everything to them is a headline. Donald Trump found guilty in E. Jean Carroll case, liable for RAPE, and they all go around repeating the frickin' talking point that Trump was found guilty for RAPE. Literally didn't happen. If you actually clicked the article from a reliable source, you would have found that he was found not guilty on that count. He was found liable for defamation. But leftoids don't care. They read the headline and simply move on with their life. Donald Trump found guilty in corporate fraud case. Little do they know, there was never actually a victim of fraud, and this supposed fraud was just a bank loan. Basic business v. bank interactions. They just don't know. Mostly because they're not intellectually curious. They already made up their mind. They hate Trump. Trump has to lose at any and all cost. And Kamala right now is brat, and so Kamala is winning. They see the headline that Kamala Harris is up nationally by 1 point, and that's it. That's enough for them. But once again, you can't just just read the headline. You have to actually get into the meat of it. And in this case, that's called the crosstabs. You have to look at all the demographics, the demographic breakdowns. And when you do that, well, the way it looks like to me is that the math just ain't mathin'. Kamala Harris is up. Oh, this Kamala Harris surge. But she's underperforming in almost every key demographic group? Make that make sense. Trump has a greater lead with men than she does with women. And, just look at basic population breakdowns and who goes to vote. The basic arithmetic would stand to reason that if Trump has more men supporting him than Kamala has women supporting her, well, then the breakdown should favor him in the overall. It just makes me question, where are all these new Kamala supporters coming from? Supposedly, they're everywhere. I mean, the way the leftoids describe it, it's almost as if we should be having nightmares in our sleep, waking up shivering, saying, I see Kamala supporters everywhere. But we're not seeing them. It's almost as if they don't exist. There's supposedly this big surge, but you don't see a surge, especially within the target demographic that you'd expect. Kamala Harris supposedly is a queen and she's slaying, but her female support, frankly, in that NYT poll is kind of abysmal for a Democrat, honestly, especially running on the issue of abortion. Kamala Harris also supposedly appeals to black voters, but she isn't performing better than Joe was with black voters. She's basically at the same point that he was at. Again, where is the surge? I don't see it. Maybe a joke, maybe not, but the only thing that comes to mind is I think the only people Kamala Harris is surging with are deceased voters. This Kamala surge, I think, is more accurately described as Red Eagle Politics described it. Very early on as this trend picked up, it's less of a surge and more of a phantom surge. It's make-believe. It's Hollywood magic, baby. It might not have ever existed. I'm not going to say that it doesn't exist as my prediction, but there's a possibility that it was never actually real, that it was manufactured. And a lot of pollsters, some of our favorite, most reliable pollsters, seem to be landing on that opinion. We've got head Rasmussen pollster Mark Mitchell giving his rundown, his take on where the race is right now according to Rasmussen data.
There should be no complacency after especially what everybody saw in 2020, because again, Biden comfortably 4.5 points nationally won the national popular vote, but he only won by 120,000 votes in 4 swing states. Same thing could definitely happen if people aren't paying attention and watching. But I went into the swing states and pulled them in the middle of August, right in the middle of all the Kamala momentum, and Donald Trump was basically in a statistical tie. If everything holds up, apples to apples, I'm probably still, 2 points-ish to left on the swing states, right? But if the race is really moving back towards Trump right now and it bears out in the swing states, that's Trump winning most of them, which I think it's very reasonable to see, right? Like Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, if Arizona goes, Arizona and Nevada have been positive Trump every single time I've pulled this entire cycle. Pennsylvania was tied again in the middle of August, in the middle of the DNC. So I think all of the swing state data I've seen personally validates that, but it's hard to make those assumptions if you're looking at the entire industry at large, because there, quite frankly, have been suppression polls. Are all of them? No, I do not think New York Times Siena is a suppression poll. I think maybe they're a little too left, but I look at their crosstabs and it looks like a real poll. But then I look at, who was it last week? ABC News, the people that kicked us out of the 538 aggregate. They had a sample where Trump had a 33% favorability and Kamala Harris had a 46%. Trump was underwater 24 points and she was a net positive at +3. So in that poll, they gave, they put 27 points of thumb on the Donald Trump scale, because in my most recent polling in the middle of August, they were kind of tied from a favorability perspective, again, at the height for her. So there's stuff like that out there. And those are the polls that you see that are Harris +4. Here's where people should not get complacent, right? I think Trump's going to win this. I think Trump's probably going to win, maybe if everything holds up, the national popular vote.
According to him, he thinks Trump's going to win this, and he also thinks that Trump may be so ahead that he could possibly even take the national vote. Who knows? All I'm saying is that there certainly seems to be some evidence in the data, and even CNN can admit that to the dismay of their own viewers, that a further analysis of the data does seem to suggest that Kamala Harris and all the effort around her, the whole show, well, it hasn't really moved the needle much, if at all. And actually, even David Axelrod said that not too long ago.
It wasn't I don't think she moved the ball that much forward.
Yeah, leftoids didn't like that one either. He took some big heat for that comment in the leftist Twitter space, but he might have hit the nail square flush, a pure critical strike. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Some good news if you're a loyal viewer, some bad news if you have a wacky hair color. That's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.